Hello, friends, and welcome back to Dare Me to Prosper. My name is Avery, and I'm your host. These next few episodes are going to be old Patreon episodes that patrons have heard, but everybody else has not. I've shared that the Patreon is shifting. I can't keep up with 2 episodes every single week, and so instead of doing an extra bonus episode on the Patreon every week, I'm going to do one monthly energetic prediction video or episode for that, and then we're still doing our monthly meetings. So if you're interested in hanging out with us and discussing like a workshop topic every week, or just kind of sharing about our lives and what's going on, and just sharing the everyday woo-woo things that we have going on, it's really fun, and I've just really enjoyed getting to know women over there. So that'll be linked if you're interested in checking that out. Also, of course, I am super busy with readings and mentorships. So if you're interested in a psychic read or a mentorship, I do have one more spot as far as mentorships open starting in August. So if you're interested in that, all of that will be linked in the show notes. So these next few episodes, again, are going to be old Patreon episodes, and then we will go back to our regular scheduled programming in terms of recording new episodes and interviews and guests on the podcast and all of that fun stuff. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to leave a review. It really, really, really helps. And I'll see you in the next one. Hello, beautiful, wonderful patrons. Thanks for being here. I hope you're having a good week. I've been feeling like these last few weeks I wanted to dive a little deeper into some of these topics, but the Akashic records are definitely something that is, I think, foreign to a lot of people, and so it can sound really, mythical or, like this crazy story. But the cool thing about the Akashic records is there is actually a lot of information about the Akashic records, even if it's not named specifically the Akashic records, but basically this idea of like a kind of a realm of records that keeps all of the information for every soul in every lifetime on every planet, past, present, and future, just like the all-encompassing library of anything that's ever happened and anything that ever will happen. So that's the idea. And there's a lot of, again, like historical, cultural knowledge and documented information around this that goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So it's just cool. This is not something that was just like created as a new age kind of woo-woo thing. This idea has been around for a very long time in a lot of different cultures. And of course, you may have heard people in this day and age talk about having access to the Akashic records and what they would go there for and what that looks like. Anyway, so that's what we're going to talk about. Because if you are not at a point on your journey where you feel like you could maybe access this, this is like a great way to really dive deeper. This is the kind of thing that I feel like once you do it one time, it's one of those things that will deepen your spiritual practice like permanently. Like it's one of those things that will really take you to the next level. It's like the first time that I ever really tuned into a past life, and it was such a visceral, very imagery heavy, like just very strong visual. I don't know how to explain it. Like I was actually fully experiencing myself as this past life in a meditation. It's like once you have one of those experiences where you feel like you're actually open enough to really connect with and have that experience, I feel like that creates kind of a turning point, maybe not a turning point, maybe just like an up-leveling in your spiritual journey where it can sound kind of out there until you experience it yourself. And it's not until you experience it yourself where you go, oh my gosh, that was wild. I've never had an experience like that. It feels so real once you've had it yourself. Anyway, I think the Akashic Records is one of those types of experiences. So I would definitely encourage you to tune into it. And we're going to talk about that throughout this episode, but it's certainly something that just has a whole lot of knowledge and can really help you understand your own life, your own patterns, your past lives, your generational trauma, like all of those things, because it is like the source of knowledge where your soul has ever been and will go. Okay? All right. That's my little disclaimer intro. But the Akashic records are essentially, if you want to be more formal about it, they are an energetic memory field of all consciousness. So again, every soul, every lifetime, every intention, every choice, everything that has ever happened to any soul is in this record library, okay? And like many of these places, place is not even the right word. It's not a physical place. It is a frequency. It exists beyond time, beyond space. It is in the spiritual realm, so to speak, at a frequency. And so when you are, quote unquote, tuning in to the Akashic Records, just like you tune into other things, you are tuning into a specific frequency. And that is what allows you to kind of step into this energy where you have access to this library. Okay. And the important thing about this, because you can gather information from a lot of different places, right? You can go to your higher self. You can go to your guides. You can go to a source. You can channel like all sorts of things. You can channel other beings. You could channel the frequency of Earth itself. But here's the cool thing about the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records hold the why behind any choice that you've ever made or any other soul has made. So what's different about that is when it comes to processing trauma and emotions and different things, understanding the why something happened or why you put it in your soul contract or why things are the way they are in your current life, that is the core of the information that is within the Akashic Records. Now, you can get some of that information from like your higher self or your guides, but the Akashic Records is more, how do I say this? It's like a more thorough, more deep dive into like, if you want to understand why is this happening in my life, or why does my relationship with this person look a certain way, or why do I have this pattern, or, whatever it is, or maybe you just want to tap into past lives and see, is this a traumatic generational thing that I have? Like the Akashic Records it's like reading an entire book, but in a moment, reading an entire book or an entire series, reading an entire research paper on that topic. And it's going to give you the full depth of understanding. Your higher self is really better for like integration. Like your higher self is going to guide you and lead you and give you truth. But your higher self is, and I've spoken about this before, but your higher self is much more like cut and dry. Your higher self is not going to go on and in paragraphs of information. Like it's very short and to the point and yes or no. And it's very much, good for like helping you integrate new parts of yourself. So it's like the Akashic Records give you lots of information and knowledge around the why something is or the why something was or whatever. And your higher self helps you to integrate that knowledge to shift your soul into the next level or shift your soul. Because when you change, how do I say this? When you shift in understanding, you shift in frequency, right? And we talked about this in the 3D to 5D episode where it's like the more you understand, the higher frequency you are, because the more you understand, the closer you are getting to your true self, to your soul self. And as you do that, you are more in alignment. You are on this higher frequency. Does that make sense? So understanding just that concept in itself is such a huge part of your life. If you can understand something, you can integrate something and you can move forward. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between like, your guides kind of help you with like in the moment stuff or working through certain things. Your higher self is kind of helping you like integrate new lessons and remove bad things from you and help you bring in the good stuff and all of that. And the Akashic Records are like, again, like a library where you go to learn about all of these things. Okay, and so these records also hold information like soul contracts and what's in your soul contract and, what emotional patterns do you have? What emotional patterns do your parents have? Do you have any past lives with this person or that person? What do your different timelines look like? If you make this choice versus if you make that choice and blah, blah, blah. Now, when I tune into the Akashic Records, I have a very specific image, but this is important because not everyone will see the same thing when they tune into the Akashic Records, or you might not see anything. Different people visualize in different ways. Some people have a really strong like visual field, like they visualize things very easily, and others don't. Like maybe other people are bent more towards they're hearing things, right? All the clairs, and they're all different. I tend to get strong visuals in my mind, so I have a strong visual of what I see when I tune into the Akashic Records. And so I'm going to describe that. However, I want you to know that if you don't see this, it doesn't matter. You're tuning into a frequency, not a physical place. So there is no one core, like, this is what the Akashic Records look like. There are common themes that a lot of people pick up on, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it can look like, quote unquote, anything. It's however, when you tune into that frequency, whatever your mind translates that frequency as for your brain to hold on to, that's what they look like. So I want you to know that, because if you like try to meditate and tune into this place and it doesn't look the way that I'm describing, don't think it's wrong. Everybody has their own perception of certain frequencies. Does that make sense? So some people just get a lot of like symbolism. Okay. So maybe it's like temples and scrolls and, old books and different things. When I tune into it, like in my mind, I have this very specific image that I pick up on that looks like this ancient library with like this dark wood and these staircases and all of these different levels, and just it's like the same exact architecture every time, and I can like see the doorways and the staircases and the aisles of books and like what they look like, but it's got its own very unique energy. I see the beings that quote unquote work in the library. I'll talk about that in a second, but that's how it shows up for me, and it shows up like that for me every single time. And what that does is essentially it just gives my brain a way to, it organizes it within my mind so that it's easier for me to interact with that particular frequency. That's all the visual is really there for. So whatever you see in your mind when you are tuning into it, all that is a way that helps your brain connect with the energy of the Akashic Records. It doesn't have to look any specific way. Okay. Another thing I want to talk about is how they work energetically, because I'm kind of talking around that topic, but just to kind of go right there. Again, like anything you tune into, whether it's past lives or your higher self or any kind of, specific realm or being or whatever that you want to tune into, all of those things are not physical. They are energetic. And so you are tuning to the frequency of that thing. And so when you tune into the Akashic Records, and when I tune in, for me, what that looks like is the same way that I start any type of process like this, where I go into a deep meditation. I take a minute to get into it. I take deep breaths. I set my intention to match the highest frequency that I have access to in that moment. I try to get my brain in the right, brain waves, the right state for accessing my higher mind. And I don't even remember I don't know if it's beta or gamma or whatever. I just set the intention. I don't even remember which brain state in specific that it is. And then for this particular type of intention, I would just set the intention like, okay, I want to go to the Akashic Records, and just set that intention and just kind of breathe into it. And a lot of times, especially when you're newer at doing this kind of thing, just give it a minute. Like set the intention and then let it come to you, because sometimes we have to fight our brains. I found this in many different scenarios, whether I'm meeting with a practitioner or whether I'm just meditating on my own. Your ego mind is going to really try to make something happen. So it's like when I'm trying to tune into something, my ego mind wants to be like, oh, let's create this. Let's like push and but you have to be aware that like if you're trying to think of something, that's your ego mind kind of stepping forward and trying to do something for you. You kind of have to intentionally like push your ego mind to the back, be like, go sit in a chair over there. I don't need you, ego mind, right now. Like you're not thinking of something intentionally. You are receiving. You are stepping back and letting whatever it is come to you. And I know that sounds really abstract and it kind of is hard to really grasp what that looks like when I'm just talking about it. The more you do it, the easier it will become. These are all like little subtle nuances that I'm talking about, and it's really hard to figure out what that looks like and what that feels like unless you're practicing it. And the more you practice it, the better you will get, okay? So I just want to mention that, like, keep in mind or watch out for your mind trying to create something rather than you just like sitting back, setting the intention and then letting it come to you. And you'll start to notice, like, am I thinking this? Am I like thinking forward right now? Or am I sitting back and just getting the imagery? And once you're used to that, you'll feel the difference between the two. Okay. So anyway, when you tune into the Akashic Records, you are tuning into a frequency match. You're responding to a resonance, so to speak. You're not getting there through effort. Okay. And then when you set that intention and you sit back and you allow it to come to you, it will come to you. It can come as imagery, like I was saying. It might come to you through like a sensation, like maybe you're feeling, maybe you have a sudden clarity, maybe it's more like cognizant, like you're not visualizing something, you just know something. So again, allow it to look a lot of different ways because different people gather information intuitively in different ways, right? So be open to it feeling or looking any certain kind of way. And here's the thing too, especially for anybody who maybe feels like, oh, this might be too much for me, or maybe I'm not ready for this. I want you to know you are not going to be given information that you're not ready for. Like you will receive what your soul is ready to integrate. Because the thing about what's cool about places or spaces or, energies like the Akashic records, it's very similar to your higher self or your guides, where you will not be given information that you cannot handle. Like your guides and your higher self are the same way. Like they will not give you something that would be to your detriment. And the Akashic records is also a conscious living frequency, right? You will not be given something that you are not ready to integrate. Okay, so the records will adjust what they reveal to you based on your level of readiness. And how does that work? It works because of your frequency. And so it's like if you go to the Akashic records, whatever frequency you are vibrating at, whatever like energy you are holding, that's what you have access to. So you're not going to have access to something 12 levels above you that would overwhelm you if you're not there yet. You go to the Akashic records and you are emitting a certain frequency, that's what will match you back. Does that make sense? So you're only going to get things that match the level that you are, which means it's only going to be things that you're ready to integrate. Okay? Another thing I want to note about the Akashic records, the Akashic field, is that there are beings in the Akashic records, in this energy field, that are there as helpers. Okay? Because I want you to like understand that the Akashic records are like a space of higher consciousness. So it's a very like high order consciousness. So if you think of our ascendants as like levels, like think about, I'm like blanking on the name right now, but how they is it like a master soul? Is that what it is? I don't know why my brain can't grasp that term right now, but these souls that have evolved and advanced through so many lifetimes that are very, 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 very high in the dimensional level that they exist at. Am I phrasing this right? Anyway, just keeping in mind that we kind of function on all these different levels, right? Third dimension to fifth dimension and so on and so on. Okay, the Akashic records are a very high dimensional consciousness. And so the beings that are there are all also very high dimensional consciousness. And so they are kind of like the record keepers, the librarians, these like light-filled intelligence beings, okay, that are truly just there to help you gather sorts of information. Okay, their role is to help you remember or help you understand the information that you're gathering. They're not there to judge. They don't have opinions. They're not, whatever. They're clarifiers is what they are. And so you can interact with them. Like say you are tuned into the Akashic records and you're looking for specific information. So you go in, you're like, I'm setting the intention of, matching the frequency of the Akashic records or stepping in, tuning into the Akashic records, however you want to word it. And then you say like, okay, you gather, maybe you see a visual, maybe you just sense that you're there, maybe you just have a knowing. And then you set the intention a bit further and you go, okay, I want to understand a past life that is most affecting my current life. Or say, I want to understand what is in front of me in terms of this life that I'm living. What are my different timelines that I could choose to go on? And from there, depending on how ready you are or how practiced you are, you might feel the need to call in some help, or you might be like, I don't know how to go about this. You can call in help and say, okay, I would like to, call in a record keeper or a librarian. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't know if there's like one proper term for them, but I'd like to call in some help. Help me understand, help me clarify what I'm receiving. Like, help me clarify, help me get answers here. And again, when you do something like that, you have to remember, don't push to think, right? You don't want your ego mind coming in to try to create an answer. You want to step back so that you can receive an answer. And it might take a minute. Like, sometimes I'll sit back and just clear my mind and I'm like, nothing is coming. That's okay. Just like sit for a minute and let it come to you. Or if you feel like nothing's coming to you after you've sat for a minute, you can go, okay, let me phrase this in a different way, or let me ask a different question. And, and just keep doing that and practice it. Anyway, yes, there are beings in the Akashic field. Again, when I don't know if this is because I've read so many like fantasy books that I like already have this type of image in my mind. But again, like when I picture the records, it's like this big, almost like a Beauty and the Beast library kind of. And I like picture these light beings almost like with these like cloaks on, not in a scary way, but just like literally like there's no facial features. There's no like, it's just like light and this like cloak of just these high consciousness beings. That sounds so fantastical, but that's just like, that's what my brain sees every single time. Okay. Anyway, so these are all the things that you basically have access to, or like why you would want to go and what you would want to ask and how to go about it. So let's talk about why this would matter in your spiritual journey. Like, what is the point? I mean, I kind of already said that, but again, some of the information that you can access is getting information around why your life was designed the way that it was, why your soul contract is set up in a certain way. They can reveal to you the contracts, the lessons, the soul intentions. Again, like you can go over your soul contract and gain information around everything that you set an intention for and why, and, what you could change and whatnot. They help you understand any trauma or suffering or, any negative experiences that you've had. When you go in to receive that information, and you gain that understanding, it helps you move from a place in your life where you may have kind of been in this victimhood stage to a place where you understand yourself more as the author, and you have authority here and you have autonomy here over your life and your soul contract. Again, it's not like we control every single thing in our life, but when you step into the energy of autonomy, your whole identity shifts. And when your whole identity shifts, the world responds to you differently. Does that make sense? So like if we go back to the episode where we were talking about changing your soul contract, when you shift yourself from an energy of I'm asking for things, I'm praying for things, I'm requesting things, into an energy of I am in charge. This is my life. This is what I set the intention. I declare this. I command this. I set the intention for this. That energy, that's when your life starts to change around you versus the energy of asking and pleading and wishing and hoping. Anyway, the point to that being, when you understand your life from a higher perspective, you can step more into the author role instead of the reader. Like if it was a book, you're stepping into the author instead of being the reader. Does that make sense? Okay. And this also helps you heal like shame and wounds and bad patterns that you have. And it helps your soul connect to your eternal identity. It helps your soul really connect to your higher self, your higher mind, your true self, because we're so disconnected from who we really are. When we come to earth, we get so disconnected from our higher self, from our true soul. Anytime you kind of make contact with your higher self or source or your guides or Akashic records or whatever it is, past lives, anything, anytime you are kind of reaching through the energetic space and connecting with the other side, you are opening up like a new connection with your true self and like your inherently energetic existence. Does that make sense? There's not like a good word for this. Okay, I'm really just doing kind of an overview in this episode, and depending on how helpful or interesting you find this episode, we could do an episode where we go a little bit deeper, but I really just kind of want to introduce this topic, first of all, because it is a little bit just one of the more unfamiliar territories for a lot of people. So we're skimming the surface, but we could do a deep dive later. But I do want to mention, just so you have some ideas, again, I kind of went over this. I'm just going to give you like a few more, kind of a list of ideas of what to ask or what to look for in the Akashic Records. So you could start with kind of themes that pop up in your life. You can ask about certain patterns or certain blocks that you've been running into. If you feel like you really want to tune into like what your soul felt like your purpose was in this lifetime, that's a great thing to ask. You can ask about relationship dynamics, whether it's a relationship with one specific person or there's like a repeating pattern in a lot of your relationships. You can ask something simple like, what did I come here to learn? Anywhere that you feel like is the current biggest maybe block in your life, or an area where you just really want more clarity. There's a lot of back and forth. Maybe you're not sure about something, or if there's a place or a state that you really want to get to, not state, but like in a state of being that you really want to get to, and you feel like you're kind of disconnected from it, anything like that. Like basically your biggest problems or issues, that's a great thing to ask. Or another great thing to ask is like, where did this come from? Why am I this way? Or why does my life tend to go this way? Those are all really great questions that the Akashic Records, quote unquote, love to answer, because that's really what they're there for, is to help give you clarity and understanding, especially in places like Earth where you come and you forget who you are, you forget how the universe works, you forget that you are this eternal soul. Once you understand that you have access to the Akashic Records, this is such a great resource because it helps you reconnect with all of the things that you have forgotten, which for a life on Earth is so valuable. Oh, I also wrote these down. These would be good questions too. Why you chose your parents, what you're here to heal, if you have any energetic cords to people or contracts that you don't need anymore or that are not in your best interest anymore that need to be cut or released. Do you have any gifts, intuitive gifts that you're not using or that you're not yet trusting? If you want to understand why money or love or power feels unsafe to you, or like if you don't feel safe being seen, or if you don't feel safe opening up to people or whatever it is, that's a great place to get answers around that, because once you understand something, you can heal it. And that's the biggest benefit. If you can hear my kids making a bunch of noise in the background, I apologize. Anyway, there's really nothing that you couldn't ask, but my suggestion would be to go in with a specific starter question, maybe 2 or 3. Don't go in with like a list of 20 things that are really nuanced, and that, because you're just going to get overwhelmed and it's going to be really difficult to kind of understand what you're asking. So I would go in with like maybe 1 question. If you're really feeling confident, maybe 2 or 3. And just see how that goes. And again, don't be discouraged if you feel like the first time that you do this, just like anything you're trying to access in meditation. If you do it a few times and feel like that didn't work, you have to keep in mind this is like a muscle that you've never used, or that you've just used very rarely, or that you're not used to using. It's kind of like if you were an adult and you've never walked on your legs, that's going to take a while to strengthen those muscles and to actually get to the point where the muscles are strong enough where you can start walking and then start running. This is a similar thing. You have to strengthen this muscle before it really starts to work in a way that's just to its full potential, so to speak. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up here. Again, this was kind of just a skimming the surface, not necessarily a deep dive, but I'd be really interested to hear how this episode resonated with you. Do you feel like you're ready to kind of seek out this type of information? Does this feel like maybe it's just not for you at all, or maybe just not for you yet, or where you stand with this? I'm really interested. I know it's one of those deeper topics, but it's actually been really valuable for me, and it's something that I think in the coming years, we will start to hear more and more about as more and more people start to understand this as a concept and recognize that it is a really high frequency tool that we all have access to. I think we're going to hear more about it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a patron. I appreciate you so very much. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.